All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are not seeing. This is not a ghost. This is reality. The drive to Dayton is officially back. It is officially tournament time. We got a full squad today. They pulled me out from the dead, laying in the weeds. We got Brayton Martin up there in Northwest Ohio. We got Mr. Peatross and Mr. Roth. Gentlemen, how does it feel to have the four horsemen back here today?
It's uh it's surreal, man. We're glad to have you back, and we kind of want to just give you the floor for at least a little bit, man.
Yeah.
It's been a while since the fans have heard from you. They want to know what you're up to, what you think about everything that's going on, and
Well,
talk about what you missed us.
apparently I had a few people that were not happy with me the other day when Emperor Stubbs came out and heard from several coaches about the bracketing 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15. Not happy about that. So, I'm gonna have to take that into consideration. Yeah, they definitely were not happy about that. They seem to like everything else for the most part. But man, when you start throwing out that we're going to automatically put you on the board and comparing them to football and um, yeah, they just get a little rowdy over that for some reason. Um, and when you look at it, really, whether you're using Brayton's RPI or the Max Preps, I mean, one of the guys that emailed me, I looked at his region and set it up the way that he didn't want it. And I was like, and this doesn't make any sense. Like, you're gonna seed the whole region 1 through 16. If 16 are getting in, man, like what man, this looks really good for you. But I don't know. They want the control. Control was taken out of their hands when it went to 7 divisions because the majority definitely did not want that, the coaches speaking. But man, yeah, I've been laying in the weeds, following things, keeping things in check, and been really busy, but definitely following everybody's work. And tell you what, it's really hard to wrap your mind around, like, when I see a team that's like Division 3, and I'm like, wait a minute, team Division 3. It's just hard to get into that 7 division mindset when for so long it's just been 4 divisions and a team might bounce back and forth between 2 divisions, but nothing like this where this is just an extreme change, to be honest with you. I don't know if it had to be that extreme. And one thing that just kind of popped up to me was like, when you look at this bracket, it just seems like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like every team the state does not like ended up in Division 5. It was just like, hey, yeah, not a fan. Division 5, not okay. You can go in there too. And I don't know if that was just coincidence, but when you look at the teams that are in Division 5, it's like, all right, look, we know that you guys kill the attendance when you make it here, so we're only going to give you one team this year to get there because one of you is going to get there. But which one is it going to be? It doesn't matter because we're only going to let one of you get there and ruin our attendance. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I was the only one that recognized that or looked at that. And
It's excellent that half the people on this call are alumni of Division 5 public schools.
yeah, yeah. I mean, um, I've been
I think
following.
I
I've
think
been
you guys got a better path than my alumni school does.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following Division 5 pretty closely this year just because, my alma mater is in there. And my goodness, I keep texting the head coach there, his buddy of mine. I'm like, dude, you must have been on the nice list this year, bud, because that path you got to Ohio University, I mean, you got a 4-win team, an 8-win team, and then a team, 2 teams that you've already played twice to get to the reach. So you really don't have to leave Belmont County. They're not going to have to leave Belmont County to get to OU because they're going to play at the Echo. They've played their first game at home and then they're going to play their next 2 games at that Echo Center there at Ohio University Eastern, which is in St. Clairsville too. So they're going to play 3 games and never have to leave the county.
That's nice.
And then you got some teams that are traveling 2 hours to play a
Perrysburg, Whitmer
sectional game. And it's like I said, man, I said, hey man, you must be living right, brother, because you have one incredible path. And then when you look at it from a D5 perspective, they get to the regional. It's not like there's anybody in there that could completely overwhelm them. If
we'll break it down here shortly.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just been a big change this year. I want to say that I'm cautiously optimistic about how this is going to play out, but I'm cautiously pessimistic, to be honest with you. And I don't want to be that way. I want it to be great. I just can't get past the fact that there's no Final Four.
Yeah, and it just kind of ruins that whole experience. We've talked about that before. And speaking of the Final Four, I'm not sure if you guys saw my tweet from earlier today. Kind of picked up some steam with just fans and coaches. A lot of people, a lot of voices chimed in. So I got a call yesterday from a Division VII coach. Not going to say who it was, but he was saying that when it comes down to the Final Four, that there are talks that they're going to reseed those 4 teams, 1 through 4. So then in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, I'm assuming they're going to use, Max Prep's RPI formula the same way we've been doing it all season and all tournament. But then I got another text message that, if you look at the state tournament guide, it just kind of gives you the region breakdowns and what days the regional semis and regional finals and all that stuff is. I guess at the bottom of those sheets, it says the Final Four basically is up to the discretion of the executive office, aka Doug Ute is going to basically be able to put together whichever games that he wants. And it says geographical location may come into play, it may not. So the fact that we just once we get to the Final Four, we have no clue what's going to happen. There's some divisions that are going to be, it's going to make sense geographically. Then there's going to be others that not going to make sense. Because they're thinking, about their pockets. I'd be willing to bet any money in my account that, if Delphus St. John and Rushi both make the Final Four, those guys aren't going to play until a potential state championship game. I think that's just how it's going to shake out. But just the fact that nobody knows what the hell is going to happen when we get to that Final Four. There's no structure to it. To me, if we're going to reseed, we might as well just use the same formula we've been using all year, keep some consistency to it. You can't tell me that geography matters and now you care about location when you got teams like Perrysburg and Whitmer driving, 250 miles across the damn turnpike in opposite directions. None of this makes sense. So don't tell me that you care about the, geography and the travel now that we're down to just 4 teams. I don't know, man. It's wild. It's a mess. I don't know. I don't know how to feel. How do you guys feel about the whole potential, reseeding of the Final Four? How should that look? What should they do? Should they try to steer certain matchups together? What do you guys think?
That's kind of how they've done football for as long as I can remember. Right? Once they get to the state semis, and they usually do it by geography, but it's always kind of been something that I've just been it's kind of weird that everybody's just okay with it. That's the norm. I don't know the best way to do it, but
then they haven't always done that though, right? Because Hoban and Massillon used to be in the same region, and then they split those guys up so that they could play later on, right? Even though they're only 25, 30 minutes apart.
yeah.
So it seems like they make exceptions when they feel it's necessary.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, if they were to reseed it based on the Max Preps RPI that ended, 3 weeks ago now? I mean, you'd have Richmond Heights would be ranked 10th in Division 5. So if they come out of Region 17, they would be most likely the 4 seed if they reseeded based off of that.
Well,
so
the
whoever
3
the best
probably
team is,
Region 20 is going to be the 4.
Yeah.
because their only team with a high RPI got all the forfeits.
If this
Oh,
is
yeah.
if this is going to happen, I mean, we'll put it air quotes, if I think this may have a lot to do with that Division 7 state football final. In region 26 and 28 play in the semifinals, which is typically your two best teams in the state of Ohio having to play each other. And a lot of times that's a 35-point game. So, I mean, it's least respectable, but when it's 64 or 63, whatever it was, 64-0, 61-0 at halftime, you can throw your geographical representation out the window because that's just flat out embarrassing for all parties involved. And people that follow the sport could see that a mile away. I mean,
I think
nothing,
like the Cal Preps pregame spread was like minus 48.5 in a state title game.
nothing against Jeromesville, Hillsdale. They're a nice, I'm sure they're a really nice team against a normal Division 7 team. But that's the major problem when they spread out to 7 divisions in football, is one or two of those MAC schools were going to have to go down into Division 7. And it's nothing that they're doing that's wrong. It's just that they are so far superior to everybody else at that level that, yeah, that's what you're going to end up with. So, I don't know if I think it was Columbus Grove maybe was the other semifinalist this year. And that's, I mean, that's who you want to, you want, I know Minster and Marion Local are in the same region in football, but those two teams running clock every single team in Division 7 this year. There's no doubt about it. And Minster's just drew the short end of the stick that they're down in Division 7 with them. But I feel like, especially with the way it is now, you have a one-shot opportunity to get this right. So you don't want to go down there and put a terrible product on the floor because you don't have two chances to get it right this time. It's one chance. There's one state championship game where the eyes are on the whole state, or all eyes are on the state finals. Semifinals is going to be whatever. It's going to be spread out all over the state. Nobody's going to be able to get to every single game. I mean, it's going to be complete chaos. But when all eyes are on it, you got one shot. So you better get the right two teams there the first year, or it's going to be, well, I'm not going back to that. I can watch that on TV, and if it stinks, I'll turn it off.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just the way I was looking at it.
yeah. I mean, I don't blame them, right? Like when you know the 4 teams that are making it and you're putting on a show, I'm going to try and steer to get my best performers on the stage. I mean, from a business standpoint, it makes complete sense. I think my issue just comes in the fact that who are these guys to know who the best? How many gyms have these guys been in? The executive office? Is this the United States government?
Putting a lot of trust into one person
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
I've been over 100 games this year. I don't see these guys around. I don't see OHSAA people sitting at these games. I don't. So it's like, where are you guys getting this information from? How are you determining which teams are going to play? They have
Which
no,
is probably why they won't do it.
and the fact that they have no clue is why we're in the predicament that we're in right now. Expecting these guys to get it right, I don't know, man.
It is funny because between me and TJ in an average year, we see like 250 Ohio high school teams in person because I'm usually at like 170. I'm at like 140 something right now. TJ's usually at like 150, and a handful of those teams are repeats. Like we'll see the same 80 teams. But I mean, between the two of us, you're checking off over 30% of the state in person, like just on this podcast, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The Final Four is just I'm gonna have some serious FOMO. I think we talked about that in the last, but like just trying to figure out which semifinal games you want to see and which ones you're gonna have to miss is like and of course they're all going to be at the same time, right? Just because that's just how things go.
It shouldn't be at the same time because you would think you could make more money if you spread them out, right?
You would think, um,
So
but
maybe they'll do it good for us, spread it out the times, and in
yeah,
turn maybe make some more money. Because sometimes you can make a decision for the money and it works out well for us too. So
we don't know the times or anything, so it's just crazy trying to keep track and keep up with everything. So it's a bit overwhelming, to be honest.
I'll be interested to see who is up for hosting these semifinal games. Who's available? How
like
many?
what colleges?
Yeah, how many games? Like are they going to try to like combine and put multiple games at a particular site? Because I mean, you know, you look at some of these region spots, and it's like you're like, where did they come up with that? You
You
know,
would, yeah, I don't know.
Dayton Fairborn, like,
Yeah,
I mean,
you would,
The Skyhawks. I mean, I don't know. Like, again, I know it's all about like who is willing to, you know, who is willing to do it. And colleges, I mean, you know, there's so much that go on these campuses that, like, do they have those like slots like held in place for these potential games? I mean,
The
I
MAC schools,
think
they
that's a
probably have the MAC tournament that same weekend, don't they? For the
uh,
college
11,
MAC schools.
As regionals, yeah. So
Yeah.
most of
Oh,
their
that's
gyms would
regionals. Okay.
actually be, or not regionals for the Final Four, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what
So
state
most of their gyms
semis.
would actually be available, you would
yeah,
assume.
yeah. I think the MAC tournament is the 11th through the 13th, and the girls is I think, right before. So yeah, I don't know. You would think that the MAC schools would be available, but you also can't really bank on that too. There's other stuff going on. So
Yeah, I think the girls is the 12th through the 16th, and the boys is the 13th through the 16th. So that would
However
be
they do it,
in
my big thing is I want them to have multiple games at at one gym, like you guys said, spread out, but I don't want to go to a gym and just only be able to watch one state semifinal game. I want to be able to catch a few of them. But I don't know if they're going to be doing neutral sites, like distance between closest or biggest gym between the two schools, or they're
I
just
think
going to go like
Columbus might work
OU.
out pretty well because you might have a couple Columbus versus Columbus
Yeah,
teams, and you also might have like a Southeast Ohio team meeting up with a Northwest Ohio team. Where are we going to put it?
right.
Columbus, like
Might be
somewhere
well.
around there. So you guys might get lucky. I don't know. I don't know how,
come
but
on.
especially with the state title games in Dayton, I think that
Yeah.
Southwest Ohio is not going to get much of anything. So I think a bunch of
where
them are going to end up in Columbus,
where are these games going to be played in Columbus?
probably between the Expo Center and Ohio Dominican.
Oh gosh.
Fairgrounds, baby.
And I
Oh,
guess
I don't need to see Ohio Dominican again. Put that thing to rest.
yeah, at
Well,
least
we'll
they
see.
fixed the lighting though, so that's one thing.
Are we about ready to go
Let's do
region
it.
by region?
Let's do it.
All right. We'll start region one. We'll let Stubbs go first, then Martin, and then TJ and me.
Did you just refer to our beloved Stubbs as the guest? No way, man. Martin, you're up, buddy.
All
I'm
right.
not vetoing that, man. I'm not letting Roth do Stubbs like that, man. We've come too far. He gets 5 episodes by himself and doesn't know how to act anymore, man.
All right. You just want my region pick for region one?
Yes, sir.
All right. I can't go against Iggy. St. Ignatius. I think the top half there is wide open. There's six of those eight teams in the top half that you could convince me could make it to the regional final, but I just don't see him getting past Ignatius.
I'm with you. It's kind of hard to bet against these guys. They just seem every year to figure it out, and they got two really good seniors with, Fryery and Wilkie. So, yeah, I'm not going against Iggy. I know this isn't the same Ignatius team that we've been accustomed to seeing in terms of like, just seniors and experience. They've got a lot of young guys, sophomores and juniors that had to step up, but I still think they're going to get it done. I have a very hard time picking somebody ahead of them. Brunswick, Whitmer, from a talent standpoint, there were some tempting picks, but I mean, my gut and my brain just said to go with St. Ignatius here.
I will also take the Wildcats. Stubbs, are we going to make it a clean sweep in the first region?
We aren't. I mean, that's why you brought me on here to say some ridiculous stuff. Two thought. Well, one, Whitmer Brunswick district final. Woo wee, that's nice.
That's a
Uh,
good.
would like to see a potential McKinley Jackson rematch.
For a third time?
Yeah, St. Ed's always just seems to find a nice district, but I'm gonna man, I'm gonna go with Whitmer.
I
I
knew it.
think they're starting to get rolling, and I just like the guards. Um, but St. Ignatius is hard to go against. I know my guy, Coach Brooks, is gonna be, he's gonna be giving it to me, but I'm gonna roll with Whitmer, man. Coach Stacy, let's go.
All
Yeah, and those
right.
guys, they've been, Whitmer hasn't been particularly healthy all year, right? Antoine West, who we all know is kind of the main catalyst of that group, has dealt with, a number of kind of lingering injuries. But man, I got to give some credit to Makai Leach, a kid who, had his struggles. I thought in the postseason last year, didn't play particularly well down the stretch after a really good regular season. But man, this kid as a senior has just, I think, just really taken off, and has been their best guy. I mean, almost night in, night out. Just high motor, alpha mentality type of dude. Big time athlete. And I think if he continues to play like this, I think he's a matchup problem for any team that they could possibly see in Division One.
Yeah, it certainly will be interesting. I just don't know how much that travel is going to potentially wear them down. I mean, the Ghoul had the tweet over how many miles they're going to have to go just to win the region. So we'll see if they're ready to go. At least the time in between games will give them plenty of time to rest. But moving to Division One, Region Two, I'm going to go first. I'm going to take the favorite here as well. I'm going to take Reynoldsburg. I think that if this team's able to win the state title, they'll be in some pretty rarefied air considering they've only got one loss. They've beaten a bunch of the other top teams in the state of Ohio this season. They've got four Division One commits. I mean, there's a chance that we look back at this team at the end of the year if they lift the state title and go, it was really obvious. Now, I don't know if I trust them to win the state title, but I do trust them to win the region. So I'm picking them.
Yeah, I think Reynoldsburg is the particularly easy choice here. I think those guys, all being a year older, all kind of been hearing these things for the last 2 years, right? How they can't get it done, they can't win the big games, whatever it is. And I think they've kind of continuously, almost game in and game out, have won a lot of those big games this year on neutral floors. Hard to go against them. I think the play of junior Xavier McKinney has been the major difference. I think just giving them a guy that you can just really trust with the ball in his hands, who looks to make the right play, plays both sides of the ball. I think his growth has been key for their success, especially in these kind of these high profile matchups.
I got the Raiders as well. Make it three. I think they're obviously every year Columbus area D1 schools. There's so many good teams and players, but definitely think Reynoldsburg has showed they're kind of a step ahead of the rest of the teams that they'll play in their region.
And
Can we all agree? I mean, this is the most talented team in Ohio, right? I mean,
yes.
regardless of division, no matter how you slice it, these guys have the most dudes on the floor. When they're playing hard and they're playing together and they're able to press you and get up tempo and get out in the open floor, there's not a whole lot you can do with these guys. Your best bet is to try and muck it up, get them to play in the half court, get those guys to, think and make decisions with the ball in their hands. But man, if this team is rolling and they get it going at the right time, I mean, they're the most talented team and most nights look like probably the best team in Ohio. Whether they get it done or not, I mean, they're damn good.
Stubbs, you picking a purple team too?
No, no, you guys are going to be a little bit surprised here. I feel like possibly I could be annexed from the Tigers, but um, Every year there seems to be a guy that saddles up his team, senior, and is able to just carry squad. And this year, that's going to be Ness Lawson. Hottest team in the state of Ohio right now. Just absolutely burying teams. New Albany came in, big time matchup, right? I mean, I heard about it on Twitter all day long, how this is a big time matchup. Blowout. Here's the thing. For years, Coach Bates, they have been very sticky defensively. They had to play a little slower pace. Never really has much size. After that 2018 class with Hunter and McNamara and those guys, they haven't really ever had much size. But this favor McFadden dude, man, he might be undersized, but in his mind, he is 6'9". He plays bigger than what he is. And I think for one night, Arness Lawson could carry them to an upset victory. Give me the Pick North Panthers. Jason Bates has been at it for a long time. Walnut Ridge, Pick North. Just he's had some really good teams. Just ran into some better teams. But I think he's going to surprise some people and get out of here.
Look at that. Stubbs coming in with the bold takes. I mean, this is why we brought in the big guns. Wow. All right,
Yeah,
moving.
Reynoldsburg's going to have another shot at it. I mean, they're not going to be fully loaded next year, but they're going to have another shot at it.
It's funny. I love that Stubbs is just coming in here one episode, just guns blazing, and then just goes right back to watch WrestleMania, and he just like, man, let me just let these off.
Get all the takes.
Yeah, I'm just getting all these old hot takes out, and then I'm just going back to my peaceful life of 5Ks and
just gaslighting everybody.
Absolutely. I don't think that's too far fetched, man. I mean, Pick North. I mean, one thing that's just consistent with those teams, man, year in, year out, is just how hard Coach Bates gets those guys to play. And they are fast. And when Arness is pushing the rock and J.R. Bates is hitting those catch and shoot threes and Favor McFadden's running rim to rim, getting downhill, like they can get some points up really, really quick. And that's not a team that's going to back down by any means, regardless of who's across from them. So. Yeah, that's a good one, Stubbs. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
Interesting one.
Yeah.
All right, so we're staying in half Central Ohio, half Southwest Ohio, Region 3 in Division 1. I'm going with the favorite Olentangy Orange, but honestly, I was a little surprised that you had two marquee Southwest Ohio teams in Cincinnati Princeton and Cincinnati Moeller join this region with both Olentangy Orange and Delaware Hayes. I feel like this region has a lot more talent than Region 4. And it's interesting because, like, I would be tempted to pick, especially Princeton in Region 4. But the fact that they're in here, I don't think they're going to be able to get through Hayes and Olentangy Orange. So give me the Pioneers. I think they are the most well-rounded team in this region by a lot. I don't think they've lost to an Ohio team all season. So I think they get it done and make the Final Four.
Yep, rolling ears. I played it safe in this one. Didn't want to get too risky, so I going with the Olentangy Orange.
I think we got Martin's a Colin Cowherd here. He's like, hey, you don't get rich not going chalk.
So far. D1, literally the note that I had next to all my D1 picks just said chalk.
Just wait for that Defiance Tenora pick, right?
Yeah, right.
It's funny too because it never goes how we expect it to.
No.
There's always a Westerville Central or something that throws their. Remember that run those guys made? The talk all year that was Sean Jones and Hannah Lincoln, and we're looking at Westerville Central, and they made it to a state final game, right?
Yeah. It dang near won that thing.
Yeah.
Did. I'm going with Olentangy Orange here too. I say all that just to pick, kind of the heavy favorite. I mean, this is probably the team in Division One that I trust the most. I think the culture that Coach Kalo has been able to build there in just such a short time is just a testament to how crazy that dude is. about basketball, man. He's a friend of the show, friend in our hearts, friend in our phones for sure. A guy that, does his homework to say the least. And I think just his passion and his energy, you see it through his team, you see it through his guys. I just think this is the year that they get it done. So I'm going with Olentangy Orange to win the region.
Yeah, I think Olentangy Orange has a nice mix of they have a guy in Brown. You got two football guys out there and Davis and Schroeder. And then you got the baseball kid. So you got all kind of athletes out there on the floor. I was telling you guys the other day, my buddy had just seen them and he had saw them earlier in the year and he was like, man, earlier in the year, he's like, they are really good. And he was shocked that they got better than they were even earlier in the year. I just think like when you look at their path, I mean, you're getting Lancaster, whose best kid is out for the season. So that's scrap that. Delaware Hayes is a team I really like, but if Groveport beats Gahanna, that could be a really hard matchup for them. You look at the teams that has beaten Hayes this year, Westerville North twice, the team from Michigan was really able to speed them up and get them kind of uncomfortable. So keep an eye on Groveport Hayes if that game happens. But man, I Orange, I mean, Moeller is not, I mean, other than the name, and they will play, fundamentally sound, but I could see Wayne or Fairmont beating Moeller, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to go with Orange. I just think their path is nice. He's been on the doorstep 2 years in a row, man. Had that game down at OU against Pick Central 2 years ago. Last year, Delaware Hayes. He's gotten beat by a better team both times. I think this is their year. I think they are in the driver's seat.
Yeah, we shall see. It'll be interesting seeing if, especially if it's Hayes versus Orange, having those two teams go all the way down to Wittenberg to play that game. It's kind of funny when they're 10 minutes up the road from each other. But moving to,
That's a good call about Groveport, though. I did see them earlier in the year, and they're a team, right? Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell who their best guy is, or what they're looking to do. But it just looked like just a bunch of junkyard dogs who didn't know where or when their next meal was coming from. These dudes are flying all over the place. It just seems like they sub in athletes for athletes for athletes. They play hard, they compete. They're going to make it a wild, crazy, ugly, muck it up style type of game. That is a potentially scary matchup if you're Delaware Hayes. But then I could also see Delaware Hayes kind of lighten those guys up too. I think it's going to go one or two ways. I think it's going to be a really ugly, close game, or I think Delaware Hayes is going to get hot, and I think they're going to overwhelm them. But that definitely is an intriguing game to say the least.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like you said, I could see Hayes out executing them and really separating some margin. I think I'm going to be at that game on that Sunday. We'll get to see Hayes versus Groveport, Orange, and I think New Albany, Northland should be that day as well. So moving to Region 4, I can't believe I'm saying this because I think it was in January where I said I didn't think they were that good. I'm picking Centerville. I really like their path right now. Like it seems like they got a really good draw to the regional final. They've got a senior duo, twins, both committed D1. They've got toughness, big game experience, depth. I mean, their regular season play has been very inconsistent, but I'm gonna go down with Coach Cups and take the Elks here. Again, if you would have told me in January that I'd be picking Reynolds or Centerville to make a Final Four, I wouldn't believe you. But this is where we're at in February 24th, and I got the Elks.
This be their fourth straight if they do it again?
Maybe
Fifth
fifth.
straight?
Yeah, fifth.
Fifth.
Fifth? Gotcha. Yeah, it was hard for me in this one to pick her out. I feel like there's not anybody that stands out kind of like in the other regions in Division One. So I kind of went with my my heart here over my head. I'm going to St. X just because I want a chance to see their student section down in Dayton. Give me the Bombers.
Oh man, I tweeted this a couple of days ago, guys. But I stand by this, especially in March. Culture wins games, and I'm not sure if there's a better culture in Ohio right now than Centerville. Just full participation from everybody on staff, every single person on the bench, every single kid on the team. It is just like a unit, man. They always say keep chopping wood. I'm chopping. I'm going with
Yeah.
Center. I'm rolling with Coach Cups. Give me the guys, man. So I got Centerville in Region 4.
Yeah, this thing's a mess here, to be honest with you. It was wild is Springfield won 8 games this year.
Two of them were saying nuts.
Swept Centerville. I mean, Springfield was pretty bad for the most part in the G Walk.
And they get a rematch
Yeah, and they're going to get a rematch with
at
the
Trotwood tomorrow.
opportunity to play Lakota East. I think that Elder Fairfield game could be really good. Um, Lakota West is another team in here. What would they look like if they had the guys that should be there?
Yeah, Cosby.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Saint X too, man. Like, listen, it's hard to get to the state tournament 5 times in a row. You got to have ball bounce your way a few times here and there. I mean, you can
I
chop
think
wood.
it bounced their way the most last year,
You
beating
can chop
Moeller.
wood and carry water all day long and have all the slogans you want, but man, five years in a row is tough. Saint X is hungry, man. You got the young Flem, and those guys just get after you on defense. They got size. I don't know. I mean, they're not great at guard, but I think they're serviceable. Centerville St. X would be an interesting matchup in a regional final. But I mean, Centerville's not a crazy pick by any means, but I'm gonna go St. X too.
All right. Do, do we want to do our quick buy or sell picks for Division One and then move over to Division Two?
Sure.
All right. I will ask my question first. And I've been trying to figure out where I'm going to go Saturday, March 1st, which is usually a really easy decision to make. And I decided today I am going to go to Columbus for their 4 district finals. So I'm going to ask you guys, buy or sell, we get at least 2 competitive games at the Ohio Expo Center on district final Saturday. And you can define competitive how you want, but
And we're getting what, 4 games Saturday and then 2 on Sunday, right?
3 because there's also a D2 game on Sunday.
That's why the times were like that.
Yeah. So I am going to buy. I'm going to be optimistic here. I think besides Reynoldsburg,
Buying your own question?
I am buying my own question. But I just think that we're going to get a couple competitive games looking at some of these matchups. I haven't seen Hilliard Derby this year. I'd be curious to see what they look like against Pick North. And then I think the other one that's going to be interesting is a Newark Upper Arlington game. I think it could be slow and ugly, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. And then I also haven't seen Stubbs pick Central Tigers this regular season. Saw them in a scrimmage. So hopefully I get to see them against Olentangy Liberty. That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, they
I'm going to buy as well too, guys. I think just those district finals Saturdays down in Columbus, they tend to just be really good games, man. More times than not, you get a couple stinkers, but then you get some of the better games that you'll see all year sometimes. One that just immediately comes to memory for me. I don't know how many of you guys were there, but I think Roth was. I don't know about you, Stubbs, but that Hilliard Bradley Westerville Central game was that last year?
Yeah, high level. Cade
oh
Norris is a senior.
yeah.
Yeah, dude, and that was arguably the best game I saw all year.
Yep.
That was the opener, wasn't it? That was like the 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm. I think 11 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just kind of set the tone, and I think you're going to get at least 2 really competitive games. So I'm going to buy on that one.
Yeah, I think Bradley will find a way to kind of muck that game up with Reynoldsburg. I
They got a
mean,
tough first round game.
yeah, Upper Arlington, Newark. I think Pick Central Liberty will probably be closer than people think. Pick Central, you know, I don't know why you're scheduling Pick North and Reynoldsburg in the same week. Um, and they've had the Ohio State battle with the flu running through the program. I don't know when the last time Ryan Donovan played was, but he's he's about the only guy that can consistently knock down shots for them. And they've been in without Titus, and they were without one of the Snyder twins the other night against Reynoldsburg. And you go in down two starters against the Berg, it's gonna be night night. And it was. But I think if they're healthy, that game could be competitive for a while. I do think that Liberty's size, I mean, Pick Central doesn't have like, I mean, any size. I mean, not, I mean, Division One size. But yeah, I'm gonna buy that too.
Yep, I had the same three games down that you said, Mike, with Upper Arlington, Newark. I think that would be a really good one to see. And Darby and Pick North and Pick Central, Owen Change of Liberty. I think you're definitely getting at least two, I would think.
All right, Martin, we're going to have you ask your question. We're going to cover Lyndon Brooks' ears for this one.
My Division One, this one was kind of already answered. We could skip it. It's just I had Region One winner as one of these five teams: Mentor, Whitmer, Brunswick, Strongsville, or Jackson. And we all went Ignatius, so that was kind of answered already.
Oh,
I think McKinley is an interesting team to throw in this group as well because they had two of the best wins of the season the last week of the regular season. They're playing as well as anybody. I definitely think they have a better shot to make noise than Menor does this year. I just think Menor's ripe for a 15-point exit by not guarding.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, gun to my head, right? Like I'd be pretty tempted to take the field in Region One, but I don't know. It just saying Iggy's the easy pick here. There are some teams that are intriguing to me. There are some first round games that I actually find um, pretty exciting. There are some stinkers too, but I think like a St. Ed's Elyria game in the first round could be fun. A Strongsville McKinley game, I think that's like flip a coin right there, right? Two teams that have seniors that play really well. Um, yeah, I don't know. Region One is interesting, but it's just hard to go against those guys, man.
Stubbs, you or
Division,
TJ come up with buy or sell for this division? Should we move on to D2?
We
oh,
can move on.
yeah, Division Two. I don't know about you guys. This was kind of like,
Trash.
oh, it was bad. I was making some of these picks, and I'm just like, what
There's
am
no
I?
depth. There's no depth.
No, I'm like,
Besides Region 8, Region 8's the only one that has like 5 teams that I could go, okay, these teams are pretty solid.
I can't believe I'm about to do this, and maybe I'm the only one. And Region Five, dude, I went with Massillon, Washington. I went with Massillon. I mean, I think they have the athletes. They play a really, up and down, type of game. They took a really bad loss to Hoover late in the year, but they've also played a lot of, really good teams, pretty tight. And they had a really hot start to the season. It just seemed like a region that was just kind of very to me. But I did go with Massillon. I do like what Coach Hose does over there, pretty much year in year out. So
I'm
yeah,
going to take a team that Massillon beat in double overtime, and I'm going to take Warren G. Harding. Chaz Coleman, Penn State football commit, best athlete in this region by far. I think the only 3 teams that can win this region are Warren G. Harding, Massillon, and I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe Brecksville. I mean, this region is kind of rough, but yeah, give me Harding. Just best athletes, ton of size. I'll roll the dice with them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. I think we're gonna get a football regional final here. Warren Harding and Massillon. I mean, that's not a typical basketball late season game. Um, Little concern, Warren Harding lost to Austin Town Fitch there at the end of the season. I don't know what happened there. Close game, but Yeah, I'm gonna go with Warren Harding too.
Yep. I am I'm joining TJ. I went Massillon as well. Basketball school.
Yep.
Region 6 here. There were a few teams to me that jumped out immediately. North Canton Hoover is in this region. Uh, New Albany is in this region. Um, Columbus Northland. But man, I went with New Albany. I think it's hard to go against those guys. I know they've been a bit up and down. They've also been, dealing with some injuries. Senior Miles Jackson, who I think is just such a versatile Swiss Army knife type of dude, had back spasms early in the year, missed some time, or hardly played in some games. They lost another key guy off the bench with a broken wrist early on. Not sure if he's back or not. But yeah, I'm not going against Tim Casey in New Albany. I'm just not, especially in a region that I don't think there's anybody that's just flat out more talented than them. So at the end of the day, I'm going with New Albany.
Same here. I went New Albany, number one in Division Two in points allowed. Oh, I think they're the only one that allow less than 40 a game. So I'm going with New Albany.
I will say I do think a New Albany Northland district final game on that Sunday, that is intriguing, man. It really is. That's probably a game that I'm going to try and get to. There shouldn't be much else going on, I wouldn't imagine. Um,
I
so
actually haven't seen either of those teams this year. They're probably the two best teams. Those two, Darby and Pickerington Central, are the four best teams in Columbus I haven't seen. So it'll be nice. I should get both of those done on Sunday. So, Stubbs, who you got?
So I don't know why I put this. You guys can. I put Northeast 6 bad. I don't know. I don't know who was in that district, but I just put bad down. Um, I was looking at this. You guys are talking about New Albany
Oh
North.
my God, Stubbs, you want me to read out the district?
Yes, please, because I don't even remember. I just put bad.
Boardman, Avon, Stowe, Euclid.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
will, man. Yeah, I would love to see Coach Close and those Stowe Bulldogs,
oh
man.
yeah.
Yeah, let me
Win a
let my guy
district.
Yeah, let my guy go out with a district win, man. I would love to see that. One of the last like OGs, one of the last horsemen, hanging him up after this year. Phenomenal guy, was always great to me. I think you'd be hard pressed to find many people to have a bad thing to say about Coach Close, at least around here in Northeast Ohio. So I'd love to see those guys make a run. But yeah, I mean that's a that's a bad group.
I I was listening to you guys talk about a potential New Albany Northland matchup, which is definitely possible, but Tays Valley is kind of sneaky against Northland.
I thought Scioto is a little sneaky against New
Uh,
Albany too.
Tays Valley, I mean Northland hasn't exactly played the, you know, greatest schedule in the world. And they looked great last Saturday, I know, against Afrocentric, but just keep an eye on that game. I'm going to go with Hoover here. Your boy TJ. I would love to see a matchup, X's and O's matchup, a Tim Casey and Coach Bluey up at Hoover, man. It'll be like a coach's clinic.
That'd be big time, man. I think Coach Bluey is, one of the best coaches in Ohio that just does not get nearly enough credit, nearly enough love or recognition.
He's a
Um,
ball coach, man. He's a ball coach.
he's a passionate guy, gets the most out of what he's got every single year. And I've said it multiple times, but it's just a really tough team to prepare for what they do offensively. They're really going to make you guard and be disciplined for 30, 45 seconds at a time. They're going to run that damn chin offense,
Oh
where
yeah.
and they're going to get you more times than they're not. They're going to catch you sleeping. They're going to make shots. I think senior point guard Crew Kane has been really good. They have one of the better sophomores in Stark County, but Hunter Hirschberger. I mean, he's got a little bit of talent. He's got some guys this year that I think will play college basketball at some point. So that's a that's kind of a good setup, good equation for Coach Bluey. So
I followed you, Stubbs. I went with the Vikings as well. Did anybody even consider North Royalton? I mean, aren't they like 20-1?
No,
No,
I didn't consider them. They had a nice season.
I was wondering. Are they like top five in your numbers, Brayton?
Yeah, what are they? They're up to there's three.
Wow.
Three. New Albany's five, but
Good to win a lot of your games. That'll give you a good RPI. All
yeah.
right, moving to Division Two, Region 7. Do we have anything to say besides Westerville North?
I think it's kind of interesting in this region that it legitimately could be three Westerville teams in the regional. It can get by Licking Heights, but I Westerville North's winning this region.
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's much to say. I did kind of have some of those same thoughts when I was looking at Westerville Central. It's just a team that I think just has a lot of talent, and they probably have the best overall player and prospect in the region, right? With Josh Henderson, a guy who I think is very capable of getting hot, putting up really big nights against good teams, just because he's just a tough shot taker, tough shot maker. And when those shots are going in, I don't know what you do with a kid like that. But yeah, if you can get those guys playing any sort of cohesive basketball, disciplined basketball, I mean they do have the talent. I mean, there's no question about it. But yeah, I mean the obvious pick here is Westerville North. Um, I think we're all probably across the board, right?
Yeah. This last region I think is really interesting. Like I don't find regions 5, 6, or 7 interesting at all. I think this region has some pretty interesting potential. I mean, you've got the top two teams in the ECC, Winton Woods and Kings, and then you've got Lima Senior, Anthony Wayne, and Start all in one district, and then Toledo St. Francis and Toledo St. John's in another district. Like this actually looks like a real regional with a handful of talent. I'm going to take Lima Senior, but I mean, they could get tripped up in this region. I think that is very much on the table where if they were in any other region, I think they would be fine. So I don't know. I think it'll be so interesting to see who gets through St. Francis versus St. John because that's like their third time playing this season if they meet up in the district final. So, and then we'll see what happens when like Kings, if they make it, Winton Woods, they got a bunch of athletes. So I don't know. I think this region is due for one really bizarre upset that we don't really see coming.
Yeah, I think the all the talk in Division 2, right, from the start of the season, it's kind of quieted down a little bit as of late, right? It was always, we're on a collision course for Westerville North Lima Senior, right? That's what everyone's been talking about. These two teams are going to get there. It's just a matter of when. I know a few of us have said that somebody's going to mess it up, right? Like those are definitely probably the two most talented teams in Division 2. I think it'd be very difficult to argue against that. But I'm going with Toledo St. John's here. I think they're a team that's very familiar with Lima Senior, right? They've played multiple times over the years. Um, and sometimes, man, when Lima Senior is forced to play more of a slow down type game, I look at like that Lima Shawnee game. It kind of surprised me. I think Toledo St. John is just capable, and I think they have the length, the athleticism, the bodies to not get overwhelmed. And I think they're going to slow this game down. I think it's going to be really fun, and I think this region is loaded. I would not be shocked by multiple outcomes here. Um, but like I mentioned earlier, man, I just think culture, coaches win games. It was so difficult for me to go against Lima Senior here, and I think I probably won't go against them next year. But I did end up going with Toledo St. John.
Yeah, I had Lima Senior and St. John's down to the regional final. That was a tough one to pick, but going Lima Senior as well, with Mike there. So hopefully it would be cool to see Coach Simpson down in Dayton this year. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think St. Francis has tailed off a little bit um, from where I feel like they may have peaked a little bit early. Um, they had that big win over St. John's early. Um, The only thing I'll say about St. John's is there's still a few guys on this team that have state tournament experience from 2 years ago, which is a big deal. And Coach Simpson has had an unbelievable program. He just hasn't been able to get over the hump since his son graduated. But man, they can just come at you in ways that
They're a handful, man. They really are.
I mean, I'm gonna play it safe here. I'm going with Lima Senior.
Look at that. 3 out of 4. So my buy or sell question, this was actually interesting because all 4 of us took at least one Stark County team to make the Final Four, because the 2 people who took Warren G. Harding, me and Stubbs, both went with North Canton Hoover in Region 6. So my question was, buy or sell, at least one Stark County team will win a region. And it looked like we all bought it, because those TJ and Martin took Maslin, and me and Stubbs both took North Canton Hoover. I think those are 2 pretty solid bets that both have a decent chance of hitting. So that's why I bought that one.
I think you got another pretty solid bet too in Region 11. We'll get there in a second when as we move on to Division 3. Region 9, I went with the Garfield Heights Bulldogs by Coach Sonny, baby. What's up? Friend of the show. One of the best people out there, man. Love him, hate him, whatever, how you feel about him. Great dude, and they win games, man. Sonny gets those guys to compete, gets those guys to guard. I think they have a good blend of talent and role players. And I think one thing that doesn't get talked about enough, it are teams that know who their guy is, right? We talked about that earlier with Olentangy Orange. They all know, hey, when we need a bucket, we need a play. The ball is going to be in Devin Brown's hands. And I think that says a lot. And I think similarly with Garfield Heights and junior Marcus Johnson. I'm going with Garfield Heights here. I would not be shocked, though. I do think there are some teams that could mix it up a little bit. Like St. V is not a team that I want to play, right? Even though they've been up and down all over the place, right? They've got some really big wins, dominant wins. I think what they did to Fairfield down at Flying to the Hoop, like if that's not a clear indicator of how good this team can be on any given night, I would tell anybody to go back and watch that game. You got Hoban in there as well, who had a really, really hot start to the season and then kind of trickled off a little bit. It was pretty much the exact opposite of what they did in 2023. But still a team that I think, sorry, Stubbs. But yeah, still a team that I think could very easily win this region, just given how the matchups play out. I went with Garfield Heights. Pretty confidently, but would not be shocked if a St. V or a Hoban made a really big push here. I would say Northeast 4, I do not see any team in that district coming out of this region. I think we have Padua, Gilmore, Bedford, and Barberton. A bunch of good programs, good coaches, friends of the show. I'd be shocked if any of those teams even, kind of sniffed a regional final. But
that was like the district of opportunity in this region. I mean, Padua versus Cleveland Central Catholic, that's a competitive game. Gilmore, Rocky River, 10-point game. And then I think that Bedford Barberton game will be competitive. Barberton pulled off the upset against Alliance. Like, just
dude, I thought legitimately 5 teams in this district that could win it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not sure if Barberton wins. I think their record isn't a great indicator of how good they can be, and I think they showed that just with their effort and their grittiness against Alliance. I think Alliance had the talent to make a run. Bedford and first-year coach Jermaine Gay over there. Padua, Cleveland Central Catholic. I will say I think they lost King Young. I believe he transferred or quit. That's a big blow. But who knows? I mean, Gilmore could come out of. I mean, it is just a very interesting district, but probably not interesting enough to win the region.
I was going to ask you guys, you 3 are the experts, you know better than I do. How does Hoban's team compare to the teams the last couple of years that have been down in Dayton?
I would say not as much like top end talent, right? They don't have like Kenny Scott is really good, but is he capable of, putting the team on his back similar to like what a Will Scott did? Um, they don't have a Jonas Nichols, right? I think Sam Greer is, he's probably a little better off as a freshman. It seems like
Absolutely.
that's no knock to him. I still think he's a terrific high school player. Just a guy that just such a unique matchup because you don't have anyone on your bench in your community, in your neighborhood, on your street, or in your school that can guard this guy. Um, so yeah, and then I think they have another big kid, the Cameron Ensley kid, who's been sneaky good. I think him and Greer have a really good, kind of cohesion together, playing a lot of high-low stuff. But Kenny Scott is the engine. Kenny Scott is what makes this team go. Really quick, tough-nosed guard, high-level passer, particularly off the dribble, who I think this year has made a more conscious effort to kind of just set the table for everybody. And when he's doing that, they got guys that can really score, really shoot it. John Johnson, I think, has had a big year. Sophomore, he's like a Division I football kid, but pretty damn good basketball player as well. So they do have some dudes, and like I said, I'm not shocked that they win the region.
Gotcha. Okay. I was torn between them and Garfield Heights. I think Mike, I laughed at what you said last time about Sonny not wanting to go back to Northwest Ohio. So I think him staying over that way, I think he gets it done. I think he takes Region 9.
How about a
Stubbs,
little
on
love
you.
for Garfield Community Learning Center this year, man? They've had a really good year with Rashawn Hamilton coming over. I think he's averaging like 20 some a game.
I'm
Um,
sure he gets to take every shot.
I mean, they've won some good games this year. I mean, I think they recently beat Canton Central Catholic, which is a nice win. I mean, I just wanted to give those guys a shout out. I think they're doing a good job there at
Yeah,
the
they are. I mean,
GCLC.
I got to see their first game against Bookdale. Very ugly kind of game where I thought both teams were kind of filling each other out. It was a much better go around the next two times they played. But man, Rayshawn Hamilton is a dude. Like he's a high level athlete, high motor, alpha type of kid. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's gonna let you know about it. And he's had a few nights this year where he shot the cover off the ball. Like I think he went like 7 of 11 from three against Louisville. Like, I mean, so he's had some games, man, where he's just kind of exploded. And I think I think he's due for another game. I think he's due for a game like that during this run.
If he was still at St. V, would you have picked them to win the region?
Absolutely.
I think so too. I went with Garfield. Stubbs, who you got?
Yeah,
Hey, we
I'm going with Marcus Johnson.
Marcus Johnson special, baby.
I am kind of surprised that none of us went with either Hoban or St. V. I definitely thought at least one person would go against Garfield.
I think if St. V had Noah Chambers and Rayshawn Hamilton, I think we're having a very different conversation here. They kind of had a bit of a rough offseason for the first time probably in a while. Um, but yeah, I just don't think they have the high end talent in a close game like that to compete with Garfield.
All
Region.
right, region 10. Martin, I want to hear your thoughts on this region because you're going to be most familiar with three of the districts out
Yeah.
of us because this one's interesting.
So I think Liberty Benton and Lake are I feel like that's pretty set. That's going to be Shawnee and Central Catholic, in my opinion. Then the Willard one, um, gosh, I have Lexington coming out of there, but I know Sandusky and Mansfield are both, really solid teams. If that regional semis, if that ends up Lutheran West versus Lexington and Central Catholic versus Shawnee, you guys tell me I'm wrong. Lutheran West may be a step ahead of those three programs, but I think those four teams I think that's a really good regional semis that I'm pretty sure those are at BG or should be, or no, Toledo.
Toledo, because I
Yeah,
plan on being
Toledo.
there. So
Yeah, I think those two games would be awesome if those four teams can get there. Again, I don't know if Lutheran West, I know they lost a couple other guys from last year or last couple years. So I don't know if you guys think they're still a step ahead of Lexington or, Sandusky in them. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but my 3-year-old's crying.
I would I would pick Lutheran West to come out of that side. Like I think that I do think they are better than any combination of Lexington, Sandusky, or Mansfield Senior. But guys, I went with Lima Shawnee to win this region. Um, Shout out to my guy, Coach Floyd over there at Toledo Central Catholic. It was a really, really tough choice between those two. I could very easily see that game going either way. I probably spent a good 5-10 minutes this morning when I was looking at this, trying to figure out which one of those two teams I wanted to go with. But my gut ended up saying Lima Shawnee. I just think they have some really big wins this year. Beating Lima Senior, beating Bishop Hartley. I think they're a team that can dance to any song that you want to put on. I think they can play fast. I think they can slow it down. They can shoot the ball. They play a unique, style. And they got the Berkey brothers, man, who in big games this year, those two have really, really stepped it up. And I'm not talking about just solid nights. I'm talking about like in big games, those two guys are combining for 55, 60 points against high level teams. So give me Lima Shawnee. I think they figure it out. They went on a pretty big run last year. I was at the game when they lost to Shelby, and that game ended up being way closer than I anticipated it being.
Yeah, that
So you
Shawnee
got
win, that 14-point win over Lima Senior, that was kind of a score that I saw that was like, whoa, okay, these guys are for real. Obviously, everybody up here knows about the Berkey brothers, but um, I don't think many people kind of saw that. I think it was 80-66. I don't think many people saw that kind of a win coming from them. So, yeah, that would be cool to see them come out of that region as well.
Martin, who did you pick again? Did you take
I
Lutheran
I went
West?
with Lutheran West. Yeah.
Okay. I actually saw them play against Lexington. They played at the Battle at the Berkey, and it was mostly competitive. Lutheran West got up, I think, like 10 points in the second quarter, and it stayed between like 7 and 14 points the whole game. Like Lexington might have cut it to like 5 or 6 near sometime like middle of the fourth quarter, but it never got closer than that. And Lutheran West held on for like an 11, 12 point win, something like that, depending on like last minute free throws and fouls. But yeah, it was mostly in that 7 to 10 point range most of the game. I mean, Lutheran West were better, but not so by a margin where I think it'd be impossible for Lexington or Sandusky to get done.
Who'd you go with, Roth?
Oh, I went with Toledo Central Catholic. I think that they've got the big game experience, and they're a team that I think out of all 28 region champions I picked, they are the ones that grew the most from November to now. I mean, you don't play a single senior heavy minutes. You got a sophomore who is arguably the best sophomore in the state. I mean, Isaiah Mack Russell and Sean Foster are probably the two best right now in the class of 2027, both incredibly productive. I really like the talent and size and athleticism that Toledo Central Catholic has. I think if they're able to take care of the basketball, they've got a little bit more rebounding and physicality that I think they're going to be able to get done over Lima Shawnee, but tough one to pick.
Yeah, I went with Toledo Central Catholic as well, man. You look at that schedule, you look at their losses, there ain't one bad loss on that schedule. And then one thing that would make me a little nervous if I'm a Shawnee fan is they're probably going to have to beat Defiance, who they played in the regular season. That game went to overtime. Shawnee definitely is a better, has better top end talent, but we know how the teams that know each other. Coach Lehman does a really good job at Defiance. You just never know in a rematch against teams that know each other. And first one went down to the wire, obviously. So
Defiance had a red hot start. I think they beat Toledo St. Francis too. So
they
Their holiday
did.
tournament. Yeah.
So just keep an eye on that game. You know, Lexington, Sandusky, Mansfield Senior. I mean, I feel like you could, take your pick there.
do we think those Sandusky seniors have a run in them? Like, I feel like they've had a disappointing regular season compared to their last 2 years. And like, I don't know. Do we think they like figure it
Well,
out?
they stretched themselves this year with the schedule. I
Yeah.
mean, the schedule was completely upgraded. in hopes probably to make a run in Division 3. And maybe they do. Maybe they saddle up and say, "Hey, this is it. Let's do this." But yeah, I'm going to go with Roth, Toledo Central Catholic.
Yeah, I want to say that first game that Sandusky played, they played Tiffin Columbian, won by 10. Um, I don't know. I just kind of expected Sandusky to have some big time fire coming out in the postseason. I feel like they've got so many kids on this roster that I've been watching. Seems like 5 years now. Seems like these guys have been around and been contributing for a while. I'd like to see them win this district. They've already lost to Mansfield Senior, I believe, early in the year. I think that's the game when freshman Kalen Brooks from Senior just kind of went off. He had like 28. So I'll be curious. I think there's going to be a lot on the line for that game, and they play tomorrow actually.
I think
So
Lexington, Mansfield, and Sandusky all split against each other. Like they all went 1-1 as a trio. So I guess it will be luck of the draw. With the locked districts. That was a really good district to get the 1 seed and not get the 2 or the 3 seed. So we'll see. Moving over to I think my favorite region in the entire state, Region 11. I mean, this region has a little bit of everything. It's got the Stubbs flavor with Warren, Steubenville, Tri-Valley out there. You've got the Stark County flavor with Coach Siegfried and the Louisville Leopards. And then you've got some Columbus Catholic or whatever they call that conference. Hartley, Watterson, DeSales. You got the 3 of them. Just a fun region that I think could go in a bunch of ways. I'm really interested, first off, to see who wins that Southeast East mega district. I have no idea how good Miami Trace is straight up, but they are 21-0, and they're one of like 4 teams in the state that can say that they haven't been beaten. I think Warren is the best team, though, in Southeast Ohio, so I think they get it done, but maybe I'm underrating Miami Trace. Very possible. I did go with the Leopards, though, to win this region. I think that when you look at their experience, the schedule that they played this year, the amount of big wins, and besides that recent loss to North Canton Hoover, they have been rolling since they got back from their West Coast trip, picking up a bunch of signature wins. So give me the Leopards.
oh man, I went with Louisville as well. I can see this playing out a lot of different ways, right? Um, but man, I just think Louisville. I think this is their year. I think they figure it out.
Yep.
I they had a bit of a rough stretch there when Braden Gross went out. But ever since he's been back, he's looked really healthy, and they've had some big wins. I think the second half of the season. Um, so I'm going with Louisville.
Yep, hard for me to pick against them after the wins that they have on their schedule. I did have on here give a shout out to Vincent Warren as well. I know these 2 teams are smaller than them, but they are the only team to beat Minford and the only team to beat Fairland. So yeah, really tough districts. I also think that they're gonna give Miami Trace its first loss on the district semis. But if this district wasn't so loaded, I would love to pick Warren, but I think I went through and there was a handful of districts where there's 5 or 6 teams that I think could probably, or a handful of regions, I should say. There was 5 or 6 teams that I thought could probably win that region. I think this one's got maybe 7 that you could probably convince me could come out of here. But yeah, I'll take the safe pick with Louisville.
Yeah, if Warren beats Miami Trace, they'll basically be able to say that they beat every other top team in Southeast Ohio, which will be pretty impressive. So
I think the Tri-Valley Steubenville game is very interesting. Steubenville, you guys saw, they weren't great the night you saw them. But boy, when they play at home, they are a different animal at home. But you got a couple of guys that they can get it done for them. But I just think Tri-Valley poses a lot of problems with their size, like their body size. Their
bunch
body
of football
size.
kids.
Yeah, they make you do things you don't want to do. and they're athletic enough. Um, I think Tri-Valley is going to win this region. They schedule very well for now a Division III team. They're still scheduling like they did when they were in Division I. I think Hartley's a really good pick. Love the backcourt. Obviously DeSales has the win over, well, they've beat Watterson and Hartley and vice versa, but DeSales has the win over Reynoldsburg, but Louisville figured it out. They got moved down to Division III. That's what they figured out. And I mean, could they win Division I this year? I don't know, maybe. Problem is in the Division I typically is you got to do it 3-4 games in a row against high level competition. Winning a game at home against a really good team is a big deal, but beating 3 or 4 really good teams on a neutral floor, that's really hard to do. And they know that, they know that they've been up in Division I. So moving out of Division III, I'm going to go with the Louisville Leopards.
So all 4 Louisville?
Yep.
All right.
This next one was tough for me.
2 teams.
Even though they did lose right in the earlier matchup just a few weeks ago, I did go with Cincinnati Aiken. I think just those 2 guards, and Jay Arnold and James Burnett, they're tough, man. And those 2 guys, they can score it however which way you want it. And I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder if they run into Trotwood again. So I went with Aiken, but it was tough picking between those 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a little curveball here. I know everybody's looking at the Aiken Trotwood rematch. I'm gonna go with Hamilton Baden.
Whoa, that is nuts. The
Yeah,
curveball I thought you were going to throw.
yeah. I don't know if you thought I was going with CJ,
Nope. I'll tell
uh,
you in a second.
LaSalle.
Yep. I think LaSalle is the team that is most likely to mess up an Aiken versus Trotwood rematch. I was at the first game. Trotwood, by the way, one of the best places in Ohio to watch a game at. That atmosphere was rocking. They got the band playing. They got a big time dance team, very engaged fan base. The crowd was
Oh
going
yeah,
crazy during the JV game. Like it was a real operation that they got there. And that's why I picked Aiken in the rematch because I think Trotwood's home court advantage was worth 6, maybe 7 points that night. And neutral court and Xavier, I'm going to go with Aiken. But yeah, I think that LaSalle is the team that is most likely to mess that up. Interesting that you went with Baden.
Coach Flem at Baden, baby. Grind it out. Get it ugly.
Yeah, when I came on here, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I actually had my picks ready to go just in case you guys needed them. But I had Trotwood over Aiken last week, and then they beat him. I'm going to stick with it. I think they're going to beat him again. 15 game win streak, one of the longest in the state. So give me the Rams.
All right. Martin, let's do your quick Division III by yourself because I thought this was an interesting player just to feature.
So obviously I mentioned earlier, everybody kind of knows the Berkey brothers for Shawnee, but if Lexington gets out of their district, you guys think Brayden Fogel can lead them to a win over Lutheran West regional semis?
I do. I was at the
Yeah.
first game. I think that his physicality is a little bit of a problem in the paint for Lutheran West. I mean, actually, he's a problem in the paint for basically any team in Ohio that doesn't have like a high major level football player, just because when he gets going over his right shoulder with his left hand, he's tough to stop. And I think with him and Seven Allen, you got sort of a 1-2 punch, can beat you with quickness, can beat you with power. Lexington is very interesting. I mean, I think all 3 of those teams, Mansfield, Lexington, Sandusky, are interesting, but I think Lexington does have the most upside to win the region and beat Lutheran West.
I'm going with Lutheran West. I do like Brayden Fogel. I do like Lexington. Um, But man, I just think some of those guards that Lutheran West have, with Tink Shelton, I think has been really good this year, especially for a sophomore. And then Ryan Kalo, man, one of the more underrated, underappreciated guys across the state for Lutheran West. I think he's a big time player. I think he's going to step up in big time games. And I think he'll have a chance to be the best guy on the floor on any given night in Division III.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no, just because I'm not even sure that Lexington is gonna get out of that district. Just because those teams are so close. I just think it's gonna be a little bit more difficult for them to get out. And then when they do, I think Lutheran West has a little easier path to get there.
And then my buy or sell was that Region 11 is the most wide open region in the state, regardless of division. Kind of curious where you guys stand on that.
Like we're gonna have to sell. We all took Louisville.
I
Yeah,
know. Wow. Yeah, that's a good point.
do you guys really see anybody outside of Louisville or Hartley that has like a real shot of winning that region? Like, I think you can see, there's a handful of teams I think that could get to the regional final, but push come to shove, I don't think I'm betting against Louisville or Bishop Hartley if they make it to that game.
Stubbs, how do you think Steubenville and Warren compare to Maysville last year?
Steubenville would be closer to Maysville. I don't think Warren is a great shooting team. I think they are spearheaded by that guard.
Oh yeah, stud.
Yeah. Last year I thought it was the guard and the big. And then, was it Trent Taylor?
Yeah, football player too.
Yeah, so he graduated, and I was like, man, I don't know where their scoring is going to come from next year. But Coach Maddox does a great job down there.
One of the best in the state.
Yeah, I would just say Steubenville's probably a little bit more like Maysville in the fact that, like, there's several games this year where they've hit 14, 15, 16 threes. When they get cooking like that, they're really hard to play against. Because they're going to be athletic. They got, two really good guards. It's just, what are the other guys going to do that night? Davis and Santino are gonna bring it, but what are the other guys gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Steubenville could win it. And DeSales, so Hartley swept Watterson and split with DeSales, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think you can throw DeSales in there too that can win the region for sure. But
Did Reynoldsburg have any injuries or anything when DeSales beat them, or can they kind of play spoiler a little bit?
Caught them on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, it's a weird night.
That's the best night to get somebody, is a sleepy Tuesday night, man.
Yep.
It's not going to be a big crowd.
Yeah, kids stressing out over geometry and biology,
At DeSales?
No, I'm saying.
Oh, I'm saying at DeSales, yes, they would have been.
Just in general.
Yeah.
All right, moving to Division 4. We start in Region 13. Stubbs, I want you to go first.
All right. If you guys don't mind, if we sped this up a little bit, because I gotta get rolling here soon. So
yes, sir.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Daggone. Oh man, I know where you think I'm going.
I know. Are you gonna go there?
No, I'm not going there. I'm gonna go, man. I don't know. I'm giving all this love to the Johnson boys tonight. Give me Warrensville Heights. Give me Warrensville Heights. Give me Meach, Goggle Meach. But there's one reason that I hope Coach V and Canfield keep winning, is he's just an absolute quote machine.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's unfiltered. Don't let him have a couple of Bush lights and get on Twitter. 'Cause it could get ugly. But I love Coach V. Funny thing is like he's had such a unique coaching career. I mean, you go from Rootstown to Warren Harding to Canton McKinley, back to the home base at Canfield. It's just been a weird ride for him. How many people can say they've been the head coach at Canton McKinley? Such a historic program. And Warren Harding, man, I mean, he had some dudes over there when he was at Warren Harding. Um, but I think Warrensville Heights, man, they've played some really good teams, really competitively. I'm gonna go with them.
I'd love to see, I'd love to see Michi and Sonny make a Final Four. Only just because I don't think we'd hear the end of it for another, at least 5 years. But I went with Akron Buchtel. I don't know why, right? Like it's kind of like a hodgepodge group of guys that have all kind, a bunch of kids have come in from different places. But it just seems like every year this team, like around this time, they just typically make a run. They start to play well defensively. They get really, really good. I'm going with Buchtel here. I think senior guard Isaiah McCray is, in the second half of the season has made a really, really big jump. He's had some big nights. Then you have Chris Powell. I mean, Nico Smack, Gregory Bodine. I mean, they have some talent. I think you'd be a fool to say they don't. So I'm going to go with Buchtel. But yeah, This was probably the one region in these first four that I was like the least confident in, to be honest. Like I didn't have there was nothing that just jumped out at me, but I did go with Buchtel.
Martinelli, you go.
I went Warrensville as well. I had Warrensville and Canfield, and then Booked versus Glenville in the regionals. I think Warrensville gets out of there.
Yeah, I think Glenville is a sleeper here. I like their size. I like their senior experience. I did go with Warrensville, but yeah, this is a pretty wide open region, especially because leading into Region 14, I was surprised that another heavy hitter didn't try and go into Region 14. I know traveling all the way to BG, if you're Canfield or Warrensville Heights or Akron Buchtel or Glenville, isn't exactly ideal. But I went with Youngstown Ursuline to win this region, and I don't even know how much I trust them compared to last year. But I looked at the rest of these teams in this region, and I got to go with the Irish. I think that they probably have the best player in sophomore guard Jalen Gunther. Got another couple dudes. So I'm taking Youngstown Ursuline. Another pick I can't believe I'm making, but I looked at the bracket. That's where it led me.
Same here. Both of the Northwest Ohio districts here are pretty underwhelming at Finley and Clay. So I went Ursuline as well.
Yeah, I went with Ursuline too. I think they just have too much talent for this region. I didn't see much that I thought on paper could just flat out beat these guys or anybody that could overwhelm them. I think Ursuline would have to have a pretty rough night to not come out of this region. And we're looking at a group of kids who, for the most part, have all been there, all come back from last year's team. It was a young group. Those guys are all 1 year older. They haven't had the regular season that I expected them to. But push come to shove, I do think they're going to win. I think they'll figure it out. And when you got a guard like Jalen Gunther, I think, and Deshaun Will too has been really good at times this year. It's hard to go against them.
Yeah, I think Ursuline NDCL district game. These two teams split in the regular season. I'm going to go with Ursuline this time around. I do think I think the other districts are going to be very competitive. I think that a lot of those teams are very evenly matched. But I think ultimately Ursuline comes out of here.
All right, moving to Southeast Ohio, Ohio University. I think this region is actually pretty interesting. Region 15. I'm probably going to plan on going to the regional semifinals. I did end up going with Maysville, which I think if they didn't make the state title game last year, they would be sort of a sneaky, trendy pick. But since they did that, now everybody in the state knows about them. Tough to pick between them, John Glenn. I mean, you look at River Valley, who's a sleeper out of Columbus. Meigs has a lot of size as well, but Give me elite guard play with Gator Nichols, Jordan Watson, and Maysville. I think they win a region for a second straight season.
If I had one wish for state tournament this year, it would be to get Gator Nichols back in UD Arena, even though he looks like a completely different kid with his haircut compared to last year. But yeah, my brother-in-law teaches and coaches down at Nelsonville in Southeast Ohio, and he's been talking all year about Megs and how big they are. So I told him I would at least mention Megs. But River Valley, that's a team that going to the divisions that's a type of school that it really helps. No
Got away
chance
from
really
Bishop Hartley.
yeah, no chance they're winning D2 state title in a four division format, but been really good the last couple of years. So yeah, like you said, both like kind of like the Division 3 Southeast Ohio one. There's a lot of different teams I could see winning it, but I'm rooting for Maysville, so I picked them.
I went with John Glenn. I did have and God, it hurt my heart to go against Maysville. Um, but I think Stubbs kind of hinted at it earlier, man. It's tough to just keep getting back down there. I don't care how good you are, and they'd potentially have to play against the John Glenn team. I believe that beat them earlier in the year. Um, I think John Glenn is going to be this year's Maysville. I think they'd get it done. So
Roth, who did you take here?
Maysville.
Um, I do think that East 1 district, those two games are going to be very good. Um,
I don't know much about the 4 seed.
yeah, East Liverpool's better than, I mean, they're not great, but I think that game will be competitive. I think one of the teams to kind of keep an eye on is New Lex.
I
Steve,
agree. I think Megs is in a lot of trouble if that
yeah,
matchup comes
Stevens
around.
just got back, so he's healthy now. Um, that MVL is really tough. But I'm going to take a team. I'm going to go a little bit outside the box here. Indian Valley is where I'm heading here. Tyrone Miller has been to the state as an assistant, won a state championship with Highland as an assistant, took Tuskegee Central Catholic to the state. He is a ball coach, man. Those Highland dudes, like you're on that Highland tree, man. Like you're going to get coached up, and you take that coaching with an ultimate leader like Riker Williams. Riker Williams is a like generational leader at a school like Indian Valley. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys caught him on the football field, but he was just an absolute menace um, as a sophomore. And he plays and leads that same way. He doesn't have to score 40 points, but he leads that same way on a basketball court. And kind of people are just kind of sleeping on them. And, I know they don't have like top end talent, but I'm going to go with Indian Valley to get out of here.
I like that. All right, moving down south. I think everybody is looking towards the Kettering Alter Cincinnati Wyoming regional final. I was at the game last year. I'm going to go with Kettering Alter to get it done again. I mean, you look at a couple seniors, Committee 1, RJ Greer, Brady Connor, they got the size too. And in last year's game, Charlie Ewell played the game of his life. I think he had 5 3-pointers in the first quarter, ended the game with 6, maybe 7. So if they can space the floor, knock down shots like they did last year, I mean, Alter ran Wyoming out the gym. Now, this is a Wyoming team that's a year older, a year more experienced. I think it's going to be a lot closer, but give me Alter to get it done again. I'm curious if you guys think that's a de facto state title game, though.
I do. I think those are by far the two best Division 4 teams. I don't think there's much to talk about there. I went with Wyoming last year over Alter, just because I wasn't sure which Alter we were going to get in the postseason. Last year they had such a funky regular season, and we saw some glimpses of that again this year. But I'm going with Wyoming again, and only because like I picked them last year and they lost, right? And now if I go against them, they're going to win. So that was kind of my thinking. Like I'm going to pick these guys twice, and just hope that they get it done. What I don't think I can get that game, that Richmond Heights Alter game out of my head when I just saw Richmond Heights just completely speed these guys up and just kind of punk them in a little bit. I think Wyoming has the potential and upside to do the same thing. I think those guys are going to come out with some fire considering how lopsided last year's game was. I think a few of those kids have made a big jump. Darren Gray has been much better as a junior than he was as a sophomore. Kellen Wiley, one of the better junior guards in Ohio. Devin Evans, I mean, Carlisle Billingsley. I mean, they got some dudes that are all a year older, all playing really well. Yeah, it's tough. I'm going with Wyoming. My gut is telling me Alter again, but I'm going with Wyoming.
Yeah, I'm with Mike here. I went with Alter. It was at 63-36 last year. Kind of what was that, 27 points? That's a lot to make up in one year. So pretty much exactly what Mike said. I think it'll be a lot closer, but I'm going Alter again.
Yeah, I think one thing with Alter is they lost some of that like heart and soul of that.
Guards,
Yeah.
guys were tough. They made shots. They made plays, and they made timely plays too, exactly when they needed them to. Uh, I think losing those two guys is a bigger blow than I think a lot of people realize. But I mean, Alter probably still is the favorite here. But I think Wyoming is a lot closer than people think.
Yeah, I think this could be an interesting regional, especially if you have Alter, Taft. Dayton Northridge has had a really good year with, Jaden Martin and the Keontae and Deontay Smith. They've had a really good year. CVCA, Wyoming. Man, I just think when you win a state, sometimes it's hard to get that juice back. Um, and I don't know if Alter has been able to get that juice back this year. Maybe they'll be able to find another gear in the tournament here, but I'm going to go with Wyoming.
All right. We will move to the regional championship game. I'm not sure if the Wyoming Alter game is the most anticipated regional final. This one is Richmond Heights, Luther East.
Please, for the love of God, are those on the same day?
I don't know.
Let me see. D4. Oh, I got it.
So this region has my beloved Fairview Warriors, who have a massive game against Trinity, round 3, district semifinals. And if we win that, we will get likely a date with Canton Central Catholic to try and win a second consecutive district title. So that'll be interesting.
They're on different days. It looks like an Alter Wyoming game would be on the 9th, and a potential Richmond Heights Lutheran East game would be on the 8th. So
Okay.
that makes my heart smile. Those are two games that I would really like to see. I'd like to be at. So hopefully it plays out like that for me. I went with Lutheran East here in Region 17. I picked them the very first podcast we did. I know Richmond Heights has hit that stride, and they're playing as well as they've looked. They look as well as they've looked in a few years now. I think they're playing really good basketball at the moment. But I think Lutheran East has had this game circled for a long time. I think TJ Crumble is the major X factor. It's going to be interesting to see just how emotional, how chippy this game is, and if that gets in the way. I think sometimes when kids put too much emotion, too much feeling into games like this, I think sometimes the X and O's and the discipline goes out the window. So I'll be curious to see if that happens here. But I'm going with the guys at Lutheran East, friends of the show. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm in the minority here, right?
I'm going with the Spartans. And I picked them preseason. Coach Jones has not been happy with me since preseason. But I'm going down with the sword. I'm going down with Ohio's all-time leading assist maker, Derek Barber. He is the difference for the Lutheran or for the Richmond Heights program. And I think that him, Dorian Jones, and Damaris Winters are going to go out 4-time state champs. I got Richmond Heights.
Yep. And with Richmond Heights as well. Be the first time ever somebody got a four-peat.
Yeah, and a lot of rumblings up here in Northeast Ohio are that this is Coach Q's last year coaching at Richmond Heights. Whether that's true or not, I guess time will tell. Would be really cool though for somebody to win 4 state championships and then just ride off into the sunset. Love them, hate them, however you feel. I mean, that's pretty badass, just objectively speaking. So that would be cool. But I think, like I said, I'm sticking with Lutheran East though.
Yeah, Coach Q is going to take those Mike and Ikes or Ike and Mikes, and he's going to collect his diploma along with Dorian Jones, Derek Barber, and Damaris Winters. That's what he's going to do. He's going to walk across the stage. Bye-bye. He is going to he is going to win this region. He is going to win the state. They are hitting that stride. I'm not betting against Derek Barber and Dorian Jones and the Marius Winters. They've been in too many big games. So that's where I'm going. But gentlemen, I'm going to give you my regional picks. I got to hop off here. If you guys, I'm going to run down my regional picks so you have them.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right. So in region 18, I'm going to go with David Dennis, who apparently coaches both teams now, the boys and the girls. I had no idea that he was doing that. So I'm going to go Harvest Prep at Mansfield. At OU, that's a tough, man. This is a tough region. I think Minford's been on the doorstep several times. I think this is the year they get over the hump. They got the seniors. Man, Region 20, give me Corey Albertson and the Summit Country Day squad, baby. Let's go. I think there's very few competent teams in that region. Versailles being one of them, Summit Country Day being the other. All right, Division 6, give me Region 21. I'm going to go with Dalton over Smithville. Region 22. And I think this is what Brayton talks about often. Like this region, I mean, or this district, Convoy, Crestview, Columbus Grove, Lima Central Catholic, Bluffton. Okay. And then the other is just kind of a mess. I think Lima Central Catholic is hitting a good portion of the season here. I'm going to go with them. I know Patrick Henry's in here, undefeated. I don't feel like they've played the type of schedule that Lima Central Catholic has. I'm going to go with Central Catholic, especially after how they lost that semifinal game last year to Highland. Region 23, man, you can't go against the Berlin Highland Hawks, baby. You can't go against Mark Schlaball. And then, man, I think the toughest one for me, this is hard. You got Spencerville, Coldwater, Marion Local, New Bremen, and down here in this district, and then Tri-Village and Anna. But I'm going to
go district semis I plan on being at Wapak.
Loaded. I'm going to go with Spencerville there. And then everybody's favorite, Division 7. Throw this in the trash. Listen, babe, tune in, baby. Cornerstone Christian getting out of here. Region 25, Quinn Kwasniak. I'm not calling him by his nickname. I do not do that. I think Warren JFK Cornerstone could be really cool with Nick Ryan and Quinn Kwasniak, two guys that can really score it. Region 26, Delphi St. John, Minster, game 2 of the tournament. That's a crime. Those are probably 2 of the 3 or 4 best teams in that division. Then you got the Putnam County District, Miller City, Ottoville, Kalida, and then Fort Jennings in there. So we got Old Fort versus Calvert and Arlington. I think that could be a pretty good district, but I think this comes down to St. John's and Minster. Somebody, I'm gonna roll with Minster. I think Minster's gonna get out of here, and I know that's a unpopular pick. Region 27, it's South Webster and the others. And then 28, only thing I'd be nervous about here if I'm Rushi is there's 3 teams in my league in this, and Botkin's played them pretty tough both times. Um, I just think this Rushi team is on another level, and they are eventually going to be the ones cutting the nets down on March 22nd or whatever
Hey,
day. they play.
it'll be just the 3 of us finishing up. Just got to hear Stubbs' picks as he signs off. So probably a lot less hot takes for the rest of the episode. But moving to Division 5, Region 18, Columbus and Northwest Ohio region. I mean, this one, the headliner are the 4 top teams from Columbus: Columbus Academy, Harvest Prep, Afrocentric, and Bishop Reedy. Also, Margaretta and Liberty Benton, to be fair, the top 2 teams in Northwest Ohio. This one was tough. I'm going with undefeated Columbus Academy. Not only has Jason Singleton had a tremendous year, but I think their senior duo of Theo Falkenhayn and Anderson Davis have been very impactful this season. I think they've got enough experience. They are 2-0 against Bishop Reedy if they do meet in a regional championship game. I know that Harvest Prep has the winning pedigree and might be silly picking against them, but I'm going with Columbus Academy. What say you guys?
I went with Columbus Academy too. I think this is a year we're just going to see some new faces, down at UD. A kid you didn't mention who I think is absolutely, rolling right now is Caden Ivory. I mean, I know they just had a big blowout win, but I mean, the kid had like 16 points, 4 for 4 from 3, like 2 dunks in like 15 minutes of play or something like that. I just think they're clicking, they're rolling. I think they play a good brand of basketball. They have a good blend of athletes and skilled guys. And like you said, they're undefeated, man. They haven't played the best schedule, but I mean, beating Bishop Reedy twice, I think was helpful. They had a solid to okay win over Dayton Dunbar early in the year. Yeah, I'm going with Columbus Academy.
Yep. I was between them and Harvest Prep, but I'm going to go with Stubbs and Harvest Prep. I I'm pretty confident that regional final is going to be both of the central districts. That Napoleon district and division and region 18 is
Horrible.
the worst one in the state of Ohio by far. I went the sectional final week last week. I said all 4 of the teams that are on the road are going to win, and 3 of the 4 did. I think Eastwood
Wow.
was the only one that was at home, but
That's a
yeah.
very Stubbs take to nail, which is a
Yeah.
compliment.
Yeah, that one's pretty weak. I think a Margaretta Liberty Benton game would be really cool to watch, but I think Harvest Prep is and Columbus Academy and Afrocentric are all a step ahead of those teams.
I heard that Liberty Center has maybe an 8th grader, coach's kid.
8th grader, he's got a 3rd grader, I believe, too. The
Okay.
Baden Hops, and there's a real deal. Yep,
Okay.
3rd grader is for sure. I know that. I got a couple 4th graders, so I've seen him a couple times. But yeah,
That's funny.
they're ballers.
Good stuff. So hopefully next year, Liberty Center, if they're in the same district, they'll be all right.
Yeah,
That's a good district champ. So,
there you go. There you
all
go.
right. Moving to Southeast Ohio, all Southeast and East district teams, this sort of throwback region. I'm going with Minford. I think they're due. They've had their trouble. Branson Copus is at Rio Grande, so he cannot haunt them for a 3rd straight season. Senior duo, Miles Montgomery and Bennett Kaiser. I think when you look at this region, there's a pretty good chance that Minford has the 2 best players on the court in every game that they play. And that's a recipe for success. Fairland's had an impressive season, picked up some good wins. Brody Buchanan has been tremendous as a senior. I believe both games against Chesapeake have gone to double overtime, which they could meet for a 3rd time in a district final. Would be really hilarious if it goes into overtime or double overtime again. And East District, St. Clairsville, most talented team. I think they definitely have a shot, but it's Minford's year. It's now or never for them, and I think it's now.
I went with Minford as well. I think those guys have been knocking on the door, like Stubbs said. Bennett Kaiser is, in my opinion, the best player in this region by a pretty fair margin right now as a senior. Miles Montgomery, just a winner. Hard to bet against kids like that. I'm going with Minford, quite frankly, just because I don't want to hear Lance or Grant Gillian's mouth for the next 2 weeks if they do win. So, yeah, I'm going with Minford.
Yep. Make it three. I went with Minford as well over Fairland. I don't think they're going to make it to UD in the state or past the state semis, but I think they'll make it through this region.
And now we got the Corey Albertson region, very soft outside of Summit Country Day. Stubbs mentioned Versailles as like a team to watch. I do think they might have the best chance of keeping it competitive with Summit Country Day, but I think it's far more likely Summit Country Day wins every game in this region by double digits than they lose a game in this region. So I think that they absolutely roll here. And so give me Summit Country Day.
Yeah, nothing really to say here. I went with Summit Country Day as well. I will say Division Five may be the Final Four tournament that I am looking forward to the most, to be honest. I think any combination of the teams that we mentioned would be really fun and competitive. And I'd be curious to see how they would match that up. But man, all day long, give me a Summit Country Day versus a Columbus Academy or a Harvest Prep or a Lutheran East. I'd take any of those kind of matchups. I think that'd be big time.
I had Summit Country Day as well.
All right, moving to Division 6, Region 21. I'm going with the Fighting Corey Kaufmans. Not the strongest region, but they are, I believe, the number one seed according to RPI. We got to see them, me and TJ, at the Battle at the Berkey. They play a good brand of basketball, don't beat themselves, and they got a little bit of size in the paint, a couple shooters. I think that's going to be enough to win this region. Nobody really sticks out to me at all.
No, same. I went with Smithville as well, friend of the show. I just think he's a damn good coach. I do like the Pyatt brothers as well. I think they're just really solid high school players that, that aren't going to hurt you, and they're going to make the right play more times than they won't. Yeah, it was a region that I just when I looked at it, I kind of had a hard time believing that somebody's going to win this. But I did go with Smithville. I think he's got a great culture. He's got a couple of players I think will have a chance to play college basketball. I went with Smithville.
Yeah, with picking Massillon to win it, I thought about taking Kirtland just for the hell of it, just to have two football powerhouses in the state Final Four for basketball. But yeah, a lot of question marks here. I went with LeBray for no real reason at all.
Yeah,
I love those picks.
I had a, I had a few of those, man. Like in
Yeah,
Region 2, I went with Patrick Henry.
yep.
Not super familiar with some of those small town Northwest Ohio schools. Don't make it out that way nearly as much. But I went with Patrick Henry just because they have a few kids that I'm pretty familiar with. But yeah,
Bigger brothers.
yeah, I'm sure that could very well go a completely different way than what I would think. I kind of leave that up to Brayton over here. So
Yep, that was more my bread and butter. I think the Elida district with on Wednesday with Crestview and Columbus Grove and then LCC and Bluffton. I think the winner of that one against PH in the regional semis, that's going to be the regional final winner. I went with PH, but I can see Crestview, LCC, Bluffton, maybe even Grove getting through there. But yeah, that up top there in Ontario and Old Fort though. Um, you have Mohawk and Colonel Crawford, who Colonel Crawford's beat twice, but I think Mohawks might actually be better than them. So, but yeah, I think PH there at a BG.
So you got PH?
Yep.
All right. I am planning on going to the regional semis for this division because I think that you're going to have at least three pretty solid teams, maybe four, depending on how good. Is it Mohawk? Are they in the sort of worst district, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, probably. Maumee Valley
Yeah.
Country Days on the other side of there. And I got Toledo Christian, but Ontario is probably the worst one that Colonel Crawford's up with. There's nobody really outside of Colonel Crawford that raises any eyebrows.
And you say that. That's why they're my regional champ. I'm going with Colonel Crawford,
The
elite head
Eagles.
coach and elite point guard. I'll go down with the sinking ship. I believe their only loss of the season was opening game of the year to Ashland Crestview.
Yep, yep. They got
So
district semis. It's Colonel Crawford and Western Reserve. Their coaches are brothers,
yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
Sheldon brothers.
Yep, two guys who win a lot of basketball games, and it will be interesting. So Colonel Crawford will likely have to beat Ashland Crestview, who beat them at the start of the season, and then they might have to beat Mohawk in the regional semis, who they beat in overtime. So could be a couple of rematches. I think Convoy Crestview and Lima Central Lima Central Catholic already played. So could be a handful of rematches in that region. That'll take us to Division 6, Region 23. I think there's only two options for this region. And I want to hear if I'm alone on an island. So I'll
There's
see you
only
guys.
one
East
option,
District.
baby. There's one option, baby, and that is Berlin Highland.
Yep.
Give me Coach Slayball. I'm taking these guys. They win every year. Not much to talk about, man. These guys just flat out compete, just wash, rinse, repeat. Not
Martin, are
much.
you following him?
I am. I thought about going Monroe Central though. They beat Warren in D3. It's whoever wins that game between Berlin Island and Monroe Central if Monroe Central gets past Malvern. But yeah, none of the teams in the other three districts will have a chance against either of those teams at regionals, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, call me crazy. I'm going Monroe Central. I mean, I look at their schedule and I see 32-point win over Barnesville, 19-point win over Wheelersburg, 11-point win over Warren, 16-point win over Wheeling Central Catholic, 13-point win at Marietta, 37-point win at home against Caldwell, a 29-point win on the road against Caldwell, who is 19-4. Like, I think I think on paper they are the best team. Now, was I stupid and bet against Berlin Highland in the regionals last year? Yes. I looked smart early in the second quarter when South
Yeah.
Webster was up, I think 28-13.
Yep.
They lost the game in overtime, but I'm going to do it again. I'm going to bet against Berlin Highland. Probably dumb. I'm probably going to be wrong. Monroe Central is probably going to have a 9-point lead early in the third quarter, and they're going to lose by 2. And TJ Stubbs and Brayton are going to say, "I told you so." But I'm gonna run into that wall head first happily.
I
So
wouldn't be surprised if Monroe Central gets through that.
to me they seem like the best team.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Those two by far the top 2 teams. The winner of that game will win the region, I think. Moving to Division 6, Region 24. This is the WAPAC district region. I plan on going to those district semifinals. I think everybody's circling a Spencerville Marion local rematch. I'm going to go with Marion local. They got done the first time. I think that their physicality, they've got a really good big in Austin Ekamp going to Malone. So give me them.
Yep. I got Marion local as well. You're the Flyers.
I'm gonna be the odd man out here. I went Spencerville. I think Stubbs may have as well. So I'm rolling with my dog.
The Bearcats. All right, moving to Division 7, Region 25. I went with Warren JFK. I think that a Warren JFK versus Cornerstone Christian regional final is as much of a toss-up as you can get. I mean, Cornerstone Christian obviously gonna have the best scorer, best shooter in the game, most talented player. But I think Warren JFK has a really disciplined group. Defensively, they do pretty well. They played a very tough schedule and have done well on the defensive end of the court. So I'll bet on Warren JFK being able to get enough stops to win that game. But this is one you could flip a coin. They could play this one 10 times. I think it probably ends up 5 wins for each team.
I had a really tough time picking a winner between those two as well. I did go with Cornerstone Christian. It was tough. Shout out to Coach K and Warren JFK, friend of the show. Does a phenomenal job. I don't like to get into individual matchups a whole lot, but I will say a Quinn Kwasniak, Nick Ryan. I think that's just got fun written all over it. where in that game would be at Barberton.
On
Very
a Friday where there's not much else going on.
very underrated gym. If you know, you know. But yeah, Barberton's a really cool place to watch basketball game. I will be there if that matchup happens. I'm hoping and anticipating that it does.
Yeah, I went Cornerstone as well. You guys think there's any chance Cornerstone can make it past state semis?
Would depend on their draw. I mean,
Well,
we assume they're going to get Delphos/Minster, right?
yep.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
bet
you would
against it.
think, but yeah, you would think, but who knows? Yeah, I think the Final Four is the furthest they go. Um, and I think Kwasniak's going to become Ohio's all-time leading scorer.
I do
So
too.
he's 88 points away. I bet he does it in district final. Two
And he,
games.
yeah,
I'm thinking
Me
regional
too.
semis.
yeah, I see it happening, man. Like you give that kid an obstacle or a target like that, and I mean, there's no chance. I think he gets it pretty clearly too. I think he's going to have some room to spare. Region 26, I think we're kind of probably all in the same boat here. I went Delphos St. John's. Like, I'm not betting against Cam Mower. I don't care if that kid's playing foosball, 2K, Madden. I don't care what he's playing. That kid just flat out gets it done. I'm going with Delphos St. John's.
Yep, same here. I don't see them having any trouble with Minster. They beat them, what is it, like by 25 or so the first time they played them. Granted, it was pretty early in the season.
Yeah, that's definitely Stubbs' reasoning that they got their football guys back. And
Yeah,
I want to believe in Minster. I mean, if you told me Minster is the fifth best team in D7 or like maybe even the third best team in D7, I'd probably buy it. But I just think Delphos and Rushi are playing on another level compared to anybody else in
yeah.
this division.
Yeah, that Elida district with the four Putnam County schools, you can put 25% chance on all four of those to win that district. It's crapshoot with those four.
I liked Miller City early in the year, and then they picked up a couple strange losses coming down. I
One of
wasn't
their
sure.
one of their kids got hurt. I think he's back though. He
Makes
did something to
sense.
his thumb, but which I was wrong. My wife said I had it backwards about Pettisville. It is I always call it Pettysville, and she says you say Pettisville. So I was wrong on that one. She's like, you better go in and fix that.
That's funny.
But
Uh,
yeah, I think it comes down to I think Arlington makes it out of that Fostoria district. I think that regional final is going to be a battle of the coaches' kids with the Elwers,
Jace
the
Vermillion.
Jays Vermillion. They got the 6'8" Calvin Willow as well, who his sister plays volleyball at Penn State for Arlington.
Oh, wow.
So and that's kind of if Delphos St. John's, if you have a weakness for them, that's a team or going against a team that has a lot of size. Um, they did pretty well against Camp for Marion Local when I went and watched them, but they also shot the lights out late fourth quarter. But it was a pretty even game up until the last 4 minutes. But yeah, give me St. John's.
And then Region 27, I assume we are all going with South Webster, the Jeeps.
Yep.
yeah. And then Region 28, I don't think there's much to talk about here either that we didn't already touch on at some point. But I got Rushi. Not only are they my pick for Region 28, they're my pick to win the whole thing in D7. I will say a Rushi Delphos St. John's potential state championship game if it shakes out that way. Man, how fun would that be? How packed would that place be at UD? That would probably be the highlight of the weekend for me if those two teams match up. I just think you'd be hard pressed to find a better environment.
Yep, that would be awesome. Do you guys think I think Rushi wins it all as well? Do you think all the way through the state final, will they have any game in single digits? They haven't yet this year.
I
Yeah,
would say Delphos St. John the spread has to be under 9.5 if we're making
Think
it
so?
pregame.
yeah, I
Yeah.
would say so. I don't think that's a double digit game. I don't. I just think Delva St. John's just has too much fight. I don't think those guys are going to lay down for anybody, not even Rushi. So
It is interesting. I mean, Marion Local at worst top three team in Division Six. Rushi beat them by 25.
Yeah.
So like you look at that, probably would pick them. There's a chance I would pick Rushi and Marion Local 1 and 2 if they were in Division 6 as well. Like if you combine 6 and 7.
Yeah.
I think they might be my numbers 1, 2. Even though Convoy Crestview did beat Delvo St. John, they got some other wins that certainly moved the needle for me more than the rest. But any closing remarks?
I think we're good. It's been a long show. Hopefully you guys stuck around to the end here with us. And, if you catch us in any of the gyms, feel free to come up, say hello, man. We always like meeting friends of the show. Shout out to Martin RPI for joining us, man, last 2 weeks. Definitely fun to, have some new faces on the show. And we had our boy Stubbs back, and Stubbs went out in dramatic fashion, man, to say the least. A lot of shots and people catching strays for like no apparent reason, but
And I
yeah,
think we'll have an episode next Monday just to recap all of the district championship games. So should be a lot of basketball for us to recap between today and next Monday, because by that point we will have all the district champions figured out. It's not 64 anymore. How many district champs do we have now? 96?
16 times 7, yeah, whatever.
No, 100,
Well,
100,
112.
yeah,
Yeah. So we'll be down to the final 112 teams.
crazy.
Not as much of a round number as 64, but thanks you guys for listening. Make sure
thanks
to
for having me on
subscribe.
again, guys. Appreciate it.
See you.